The more we have, the more of ha, 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 ha. So we'll sound like we're at the stadium, but not quite. But that's part of being in a gymnasium, I guess it is. But we're so glad to have you here with us tonight. And I was kind of hoping our crowd would be a little bigger than this, but it is what it is. Just so I'll say right off the bat here, we will be putting will be live streamed. If someone wants to go back and look at this later, you can do so. You would go to the church's website. I'm sorry about the way it works out. LighthouseBAP.org. LighthouseBAP.org. And if they do it between now and tomorrow, it'll show up right on the front page. If by that time, our Wednesday night service, after tomorrow night, our Wednesday night service will be on there. So you will get on there and you'll see previous messages or previous, just click on that little red button on the left of the page, and that will take you to our YouTube channel, and it will show up right there under there. And you can even search for it by date, by this date, if that would help for you. So we appreciate you being here. First, let me say how pleased I am that you've made the effort to be here this evening, and it's an honor to have you with us. I'm grateful that our community is concerned and involved with the governing of our Commonwealth. And some may say that a church has no business being involved in politics. And when I became a pastor, I did not lose my citizenship, nor my rights as a citizen. And William Penn established Penn Woods, Pennsylvania, as a place with freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. And could William Penn have possibly believed that we can have a free exercise of religion and not have it influence the governing of the people according to the beliefs of the governors? William Penn knew that one's religion, if truly observed, will affect one's decisions in life. And I can only believe that William Penn not only assumed, but expected the religious beliefs of the people to influence the decisions of the people, not only at home, but in the community, in the governing of those people. Also, let me say that historically in early America, it was not unusual for the church building to be used for public and political events, because often it was the only meeting place large enough to hold the crowd. So why do you go through all that? Because there's always somebody new here who wants to complain that we're doing this inside church walls. And if you know your Bible, this is not the church. The people are the church. We are the temple of the Holy Spirit. If you want to go there, this is just a building. Some men have seen it otherwise, but this is just a building. However, let me also remind you that though this is a public meeting, this is not public property. This is private property, and therefore we ask that you abide by our rules of decorum. And if there's been an issue and after you've been reminded to abide by the rules and you're unable to hold to the rules, you may be asked to leave the premises. And if you refuse to do so, Northern Regional Police are on standby. Crazy to have to say that, but these days, everything is said is a conflict, it seems like. So I just putting it out there right from the beginning, not trying to threaten or anything like that. I'm just telling you the facts. So don't press us to have to do such things. We don't want to do it. We can be civil. I know we all can. We can disagree. We don't have to be disagreeable, if you know what I mean. We obviously will not agree on everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't need a forum like this. So let me lay out some ground rules before our evening so we can accomplish what we came here to do. And that is to understand the positions of our candidates on the issues of the day. The ground rules are also in place so we can do things decently and in order, respectfully, and fairly, the best we can. And now, one of the things here that I do when we do the forums here, it sometimes makes it difficult for the audience, but I'm going to encourage the audience to refrain from responding to the answers of the candidates while we're here. I do not want us to influence the answers. If one kind of realizes that the audience seems to like a certain twist on the answer, they may adjust their answer in an attempt to please the crowd. If a certain answer seemed to agitate the audience, they may avoid saying certain things, even though it may be part of their philosophy. And I don't know about you, but I want to know, I want them to be obvious. I'm sorry, I've said it again. I want them to be oblivious to our thoughts so that they will give a true response of their thoughts. In that way, we can actually see what they truly believe, and we can vote accordingly with some sense of confidence. Now, we probably will not get to every question currently in the mind of the public, and we are looking more to philosophical issues, but we will do the very best we can. Also, we would appreciate that we each use polite demeanors and language. I don't think our candidates here have a problem with this, but crude and vulgar language seems to be in vogue these days in politics, and we would appreciate if we could be an exception to that rule. And again, let me say, it's private property, and this is a church, so at this time, I'm going to open with prayer. You do not have to pray with us, but if you could at least show respect for those who desire to do so by remaining quiet and still for just a few moments, I'd really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I really appreciate our community and appreciate their involvement in the governing of our people. Lord, we appreciate all attitudes and all points of view, and all those things are all important. And I appreciate that our nation allows us to express our points of view, even when we may adamantly oppose one another. We all have the rights to free speech, and we all have personal rights, but our rights cannot be infringing on the rights of others. That's the way it was originally designed, and that's the way we should try to keep it. But we all have the right to freedom of speech. That's what it's all about, being an American. So, Lord, I pray that you'll bless our time, give clarity of mind to our candidates. Pray that you'll help us to be able to discern what they're trying to convey for us. We pray for our state. We pray for our commonwealth, that you will bless it. Pray that it will be pleasing to you. And Lord, I pray that you'll use this time for your glory in Christ's name. I pray, amen. I will say this also before we start. Right behind that exit sign over there, go out those double doors to the left. Right there are the restrooms if you need them. They're right there for you, and we will get started here. Now, understand we will not all have the same values and priorities. We're not here to debate the issues, nor to attempt to change the minds and opinions. We are here simply to understand where these candidates stand on the issues. And I know we all want to be heard and have our say, but this evening is not our turn to have our say. Tonight, the candidates get to have their say. On May 19th, we get to have our say. I encourage you to take notes. We gave you a little paper. If you didn't get one, we may still have some more back there. And you can certainly pick those up, leave some pens back there if you need it. And I encourage you to take notes, make a list of your preferred candidates, or making notes of the issues and where they stood and so forth to help you make decisions later if so necessary. I would say that our questions concern currently active issues, or you could say those that have been or most likely will be active issues again. Each candidate will be given equal time to answer each question. The time limit will be given according to the question. If you cannot answer within the allotted time, we're going to assume you have not fully considered the issue as of yet. I will begin with the first candidate on the left here, and then we will follow through each of the candidates, and then the next question will begin with the second candidate from the left. We'll follow back through the candidates, and we will continue, and so on as we go through the evening. We need to make the answers clear and concise. We have quite a few questions to ask, but only 3 candidates this time, so I believe we'll be able to cover the issues currently at hand in a reasonable amount of time. Now, one of our candidates, Democratic candidate for 190, not for the 92nd, I'm sorry. Get those. I have a hard time figuring why 92 is here and across the street is 196. But the 92nd, and And so Krista Anderson was unable to be here. We'll say this: she had a previous engagement. She was supposed to install some officers for a civic group, so we're going to. But she did. We spent some time together talking a little bit, and she has sent a representative, and Clifford Ackman's going to come and read a statement from her, and then we will move on with the questions with the candidates we have here. Mr. Ackman.
Hello, friends and neighbors. Chris Anderson regrets her absence due to a prior commitment with the Lions Club of Hershey. I'm Clifford Ackman, treasurer for Krista's campaign for state representative in the 92nd House District. I met Krista when she worked for the Department of Corrections. Krista helped inmates and parolees adjust to released status. She helped Pennsylvanians with clemency by overseeing background investigations. She also helped corrections adhere to industry's best practices with accreditation inspections of state parole offices. Before Commonwealth service, Krista served with the Army National Guard, rising to the rank of Command Sergeant Major. She was deployed in Bosnia and Kosovo with the U.S. Army, was employed as an intelligence analyst for the drug law enforcement, and served with the local law enforcement in Center County. Many people would be impressed with that resume and her service as a district governor for the Lions Club. But what convinced me to sign on to Krista's campaign is that she's a master gardener who raises butterflies. This comes from her upbringing on her family's farm in Lancaster. But a campaign isn't just about a person's background. It's about her vision for the future. What goals will the candidate work toward? Krista's priorities include working to establish accessible and affordable health care, affordable housing, veterans causes because she understands the transition to civilian life, environmental advocacy, and supporting the agricultural community. I hope this snapshot of Krista Anderson intrigues you enough to find out more about her. She'll be scheduling events throughout the summer, which will be posted on our website. Thank you for attending this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Ackman. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. And while just as a reminder too, we also have some candidate tables over here that you may want to stop at when we're finished this evening. All right, in order to keep things moving, your time for answering will be limited. Please make yourself aware of the digital timer in the monitor back here behind us all. And there will be a warning on the monitor as you near the end of your time. The last 10 seconds it will turn yellow, the last 5 seconds it will turn red. 10 seconds after that, the microphone will go off. I don't know about you, when I watch these debates on TV, we never get the other questions because they just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. Well, you gave him time, I said, well, we'll just turn it off. So you need to say what you want to say up front. And if there's other things you want to say or other questions you have to clarify, you'll have some time afterwards and you can get an individual answer. Your answers may sound familiar to one given by a candidate before you. If that's the case, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's okay. I also understand that some questions are going to feel like a loaded question, and there's going to be an honest desire to expand on the answer more than the time allows. And again, the audience can get more of that in succeeding time with you at the end here. First thing I would like to do, question number one, I'm going to give you 90 seconds on the timer here. I want you to introduce yourself, give a little background, and maybe reasons for entering the race, or what you want to see as your first impression to the people.
Thank you, and thanks for coming tonight, and thank you for hosting this, Pastor. I appreciate it. I make two pledges in my campaign. One is to listen to all views, and whenever I can, bring parts of different ideas together to forge practical compromise solutions to the issues facing us. The second pledge is to always treat every person with respect and dignity. I'm running now because I believe I have a unique background that will help with what we need in Harrisburg today, and that is working cooperatively. I had the privilege of serving 4 governors of Pennsylvania, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, in senior communications positions in their administrations. Those 4 Pennsylvania leaders trusted me to deliver for all Pennsylvanians, not one group or one party, but everyone. If I get the privilege of representing you in Harrisburg, I will represent each and every one of you. I have specific ideas on helping with what I think is the #1 issue facing us, the cost of living. I have specific ideas on lowering property taxes, controlling our electricity costs, by appropriately but not excessively funding cyber charter schools, taking the pressure off of our school boards to raise taxes, and also increasing support for our technical schools so that we can help the young people to get into these badly needed skilled trades positions, which often cost much less than a traditional 4-year college degree, and reform the Penn State Board of Trustees so they stop ripping the heart out of communities like they did to ours and depriving thousands of Pennsylvania students of an affordable start to college education. Those will help control the cost of living, and I will fight for those for you, as well as sticking up for our small businesses here in the 196th District.
All right. Mr. Margettis.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Margettis, and I want to first and foremost say thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. I want to thank Lighthouse Baptist for hosting us, and to you, Pastor, for putting this together. A little bit about me. I was born and raised here in York, Pennsylvania, at the old Memorial Hospital, not the new Memorial Hospital. My parents came to the United States with nothing on but the shirts on their backs. I happen to be first-generation American. And for those of you that care about that here in the room, my parents came here the right way. I am running, well, first, after that too, I've been an attorney now for 17 years. I've been involved in local politics for about 15 years. And I'm running because I saw my parents come here and they worked the American dream. And I'm watching an erosion of the American dream. My brother, myself, my family, and I said George Margettis, H. Margettis earlier because I have about 6 George Margettises. We have a very big Greek family. I watched them come here and make something of themselves because they worked the American dream. They made small businesses, they're entrepreneurs. I did the same thing. And I want to go to Harrisburg because I'm watching the erosion of what's going on in Harrisburg and DC equally. And I want to preserve the American dream for my daughter and for future generations, not just for ourselves.
Thank you very much. And then, we're neutral. We're neutral. That's going to be hard. We're neutral. Don't want them to know whether you liked it or whether you didn't like it. And finally, Mark Anderson.
Well, first, again, as George did, thank you for everybody for coming out. Thank you for caring. Apathy is a huge problem right now in our country, regardless of what side of the political aisle you stand on. So thank you for caring enough to come out. Thank you, Lighthouse, for always putting these on. I don't know how many this is now, but I got to take part in it last year. I do believe that churches should be engaged, and so we appreciate you guys having us in here. I'm a 10th generation York Countyan. Most of my family come from the southern part of the county. We moved up to the sprawling metropolis of Dillsburg area when I was a kid. I attended both a private and then a public school, went to York College, and then into the Air Force, met my wife, my lovely wife, in the Air Force. She was an Air Force brat. She was, and some of you maybe have been children of military people. It's hard. It's really hard. So we came here and we settled, and we've been in the district for decades. We've already been serving. Before I ran for this was something that I did not seek. It's something that sought me. And what we tried to do throughout this last year is simply speak the truth. Speak the truth and be true to our principles. And I hope that I've proven that to you all over the past year. And I look forward to the full.
Before we move on, I would like to say that maybe you can't see Mr. Rumman and Mark Geddes. Mr. Mark Geddes, I pronounced his name wrong, and I apologize. They're running for the same office whereas Mark Anderson is running for the same office as Krista Anderson. Okay, so just make a note of that. Don't go in and say, I'm going to vote for Anderson. You think you voted for one or the other, and it wasn't. Okay, so just so you know, there's two Andersons running for the same office, same district there. All right, now, let's talk budget. When I was taught that I should have a budget, that a budget is created in light of my expected income. In fact, I should have a budget that's less than my expected income to be on the safe side. If I have more expenditures in mind than I have prospective income, then I must prioritize my expenditures and only do those that I can afford. In 60 seconds, starting with Mr. Margettis, what are your basic beliefs when it comes to budget and expenditures in the Commonwealth? Or you may say, what is your fiscal policy? What do you think is reasonable or reasonably possible within the context of the PA government? That's kind of all one question.
I got you, sir. Thank you. So this is something that is near and dear to my heart. 12 years on West York School Board. 8 of those years we never raised taxes. 7 of those years I was the treasurer, and that's something I intend to take up to Harrisburg. There's certain individuals that up here wanted to tax the fair. That's something I was against when I was at West Manchester Township as well. Governor Shapiro's budget, plain and simple, is, I don't get it. As the pastor said, if we keep spending more money, where's it going to come from? If you or I pass a budget in our household that's $7,000 short, we're going to have to go out and get a second job, or we're going to have to go borrow the money to do it. Well, if we keep doing what the Democrats are doing, they're going to tax us. They're going to keep taxing us, and they've been doing it for 10 years. Is your life, I say this, 66% budget increase in the last 10 years. Is your life 66% better in the last 10 years? No. And if we allow the Democrats to keep doing what they're doing, and Governor Shapiro, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to spend us into oblivion. Send me up to Harrisburg so we don't let that happen. I have a record of not letting that happen.
All right.
Has anyone's salary in here risen 25 to 30% in the last 5 years? Okay, one or two, that's it. Well, that's what we've done in Harrisburg. In Harrisburg, we have gone from 41 to 53 billion in 5 years. In 1 year, we will have a $7 billion structural deficit that we cannot pay for. The only way we are going to pay for it, by the way, these numbers are from the Independent Fiscal Office. They're not Republican numbers, they're not Democrat numbers. It will take a tax increase of $1,500 to $2,000 per family to pay for the irresponsible budgeting that we are doing in Harrisburg. We don't have the money, even for good causes. In your family and your small businesses, you spend less than you take in, and we should expect the exact same thing from politicians in Harrisburg.
Mr. Ruman?
I have a history of being fiscally responsible. 4 straight years I've passed no tax increase budgets at West Manchester Township. We did not have a tax increase this year because I fought for and got a rainy day fund started in 2022 when I took office. Otherwise, we'd have had a tax increase this year. In Harrisburg, I will always fight for fiscally responsible budgets. When I worked in the insurance department, I worked with Seth Grove, who was a member of the House Republican, who was the House Republican Appropriations Chairman at the time, who asked all the departments to find any extra money that we had that we could use to balance a budget and not have a tax increase. I was happy to be part of the group that found $20 million from a small agency and turned that over to help balance our budget. That's the kind of fiscal responsibility I have shown in Harrisburg already, and I will continue to show if I go to Harrisburg. We must meet the needs of our citizens, and we will do that, and we can do it in a fiscally responsible way that doesn't overtax us. We need to work together across the aisle, not be obstructionists, not refuse to come to the table until June and pass a budget 4 or 5 months late. If we do that, we can do it in a fiscally responsible way. I've already done that.
All right, thank you. Moving to a second question underneath that category. When I moved to Dover, Pennsylvania from Maryland 23 years ago, I was floored by the property taxes. We live in a home that's essentially the same as we had in Maryland. The taxes in Maryland were $3,500. When we built a similar size home here, our taxes were $9,000. We now live in a slightly larger home, but on an eighth as much land, and our taxes are astronomical. In all practicality, we're renting our homes from the government. Every so often, there's an effort to eliminate or at least greatly reduce the tax burden on Pennsylvania citizens. I personally know of households led by those on limited and fixed incomes who barely get by, and the reason is simply the tax burden, especially property taxes. They own their home, but they cannot afford to stay in them. In 60 seconds, question is, we'll begin with Mr. Anderson. Do you believe there is an unnecessary tax burden? And if so, do you have a remedy in mind? And as far as property taxes, are either of the current proposals viable, or do you have other suggestions?
Currently, there is a bill in the House and the Senate. It is sponsored by Wendy Fink in the House, and it is sponsored by Dawn Kiefer in the Senate. It has not moved. It will not move in the House of Representatives, because the way it works is the party that is in control is the party that moves bills. They're the only ones. We do have a bill that you can go onto Dawn Kiefer's website, you can plug in your numbers, it eliminates your property tax, and see where it puts you with eliminating the property tax, because we have a constitutional responsibility to fund schools. So it is a bill, it's a long bill, it's a complicated bill, but you can simply go in and see where you would stand. I'm a co-sponsor on that bill. I believe in it, especially for seniors. You should not lose your home because of property taxes. My daughter and son-in-law live in Tennessee. They pay $400 a year of property tax. And Tennessee is kicking our butts economically. We'll get to some more of that later. My other son is in Philadelphia. He pays $8,000 to $10,000.
Mr. Brewin?
I have a practical plan to reduce property taxes by changing our local earned income tax to a personal income tax. That's what we pay at the state and federal levels. That would bring in, the Department of Revenue tells me, an additional 15% on average in revenue. And then I call for a dollar-for-dollar reduction in the residential property taxes for every extra dollar brought in, just residential. Because the plan that Mr. Anderson talked about would eliminate the property taxes on businesses as well, but they would pay no tax to make that up. This is a much more fair way to spread the responsibility for paying for our schools and our important municipal services so that all income is taxed fairly. That would make a significant reduction in the property taxes. And I'd love to sit down with Senator Kiefer and Representative Fink, because there are parts of their idea I agree with, eliminating a lot of the exemptions we have to our sales tax right now. But the plan to eliminate property taxes was raise the income tax 92% and the sales tax 33%. That would hurt young families quite a lot, and seniors who have to buy things, it would hurt them as well. My plan is a practical plan which strikes a good balance and significantly reduces property taxes.
Mr. Margettis?
Thank you. So therein lies a difference. Democrats want to add taxes to us. They don't want to take taxes away. What I like about Ms. Fink's plan, who's here tonight, and Ms. Kiefer's plan is that we're talking about eliminating property taxes. As Mark said, or someone said it, my 80-year-old uncle is paying rent to the government. My mom and dad are paying rent to the government. I'm at the age group where I should be paying into the tax system right now, not taking advantage of it. We need to do what we can in order to eliminate property taxes, not only to alleviate the stress that's on our seniors, but we also got to do something to make it affordable for young people to come and stay in Pennsylvania. That's something that we're all losing focus on. If we can make it more affordable and more palpable to young people to stay in PA, we can do more with our workforce. And I know I just said I'm not in favor of taxes, but this might be the only time I'm okay with adding a tax. If we limited property taxes and added a higher sales tax, I'd be okay with that. I'm going to tell you why I'm okay with that. I bought a car last year. I know I'm going to pay into the system. I'm going to bring up my parents again. They haven't bought a car for 5 years. They know they're not going to pay into the system. I'm not going to buy anything for the next 5 years. I'm not going to pay into the system. You get to control it.
All right. Up. I'm glad you want to. I'm glad you. But that's not just for the sake of keeping things clean here. Going along again with the money and the budget. and I will begin this time with Mr. Ruman. I think we're back to you. Approximately $1 million in taxpayer funds was spent on security upgrades at Governor Josh Shapiro's private home in Montgomery County. These upgrades followed a 2025 arson attack on the state-owned governor's residence. On April 23, 2026, PA Treasurer Stacey Garrity refused to authorize payments, stating that the state lacks the legal authority to pay for improvements on a private residence. In 30 seconds, we're going to have a lot of quick ones here, okay? 30 seconds, should taxpayer funds be used for such expenditures? If so, do you believe that in the future, the homes of all incoming governors should be so upgraded if security deemed to be lacking?
I would join all the former living governors of Pennsylvania, Republican and Democrat, who signed a letter this week supporting the security upgrades to Governor Shapiro's private home. They know what it's like to be in that position. They know what position you put your family in. Unfortunately, the day and age in which we live, we're living in an age of political violence. That's what's necessary to protect our first family, and I would support that. We need to make sure that our leaders are protected and their families are protected. It's a sad testament to today's society, but the state police have deemed that was what's necessary. They're the experts. I trust them.
So while I am empathetic to what happened to Governor Shapiro, a little over a year and a half ago, again, we shouldn't be dipping into our pockets to pay for our politicians to have protection. Governor Shapiro already has a police detail, and adding this extra security to his home is wasteful spending. He makes plenty of money. He could dip into his own pockets and pay for his own security, just like you and I would have to do if somebody came to our home and did something like that to us. I'm not going to ask my fellow neighbors and my entire community to pay for my security when that's the job he chose to take. I'm sorry that it's a position he put himself in. I'm asking you to send me to Harrisburg. What? Am I going to ask you to pay for security around my house? No, I'm not going to do that.
Mr. Anderson?
There's a line item in this year's budget that is about $16 million for Governor Shapiro's TikToks and social media. Seriously, it's increased over the last 3 years so he can make TikToks to run for president. My suggestion would be, if the taxpayer should pay for his upgrades, take $1 million or $2 million off of his TikTok videos and let him pay for it himself.
All right, let's move on to education. I'm going to put this, although I'm starting here, kind of putting it attached to under the current heading of taxes and the use of taxpayer money. Our tax money funds our educational system. We have already mentioned the tax burden on the citizens. Most of that burden goes toward the funding of the educational system. In 60 seconds here, do you believe that, and we're beginning with Mr. Margettis, do you believe that our educational system should be funded from the property taxes which are determined by the local school boards, or are you in favor of another way of funding the educational system, even one of the two possibilities currently proposed by Don Kiefer or Doug? I think Doug Mastriano also had at the other side there. I saw something somewhere.
I think you're right, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to answer that. But right now, the way that the system's set up, and I saw it firsthand being on school board for 12 years, throwing money at the problem is not going to make our public school systems better. We need to find a better way to do it. And I wish I had the $1 million answer here for you. I know one thing, Mr. Anderson over here is working on trying to work on that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in favor of school choice. We need to do something with the taxpayer dollars. I don't know if you all know this, but it's $23,000 per student, K through 12. That's absurd. That's more than some colleges out there. And that's what our property taxes are funding at most of the time. We need to do something in order to revamp the way that we fund our schools, because the way we're doing it right now is just not working. We have too many schools where the children are falling behind and they're trying to play catch up. And again, I don't think throwing money at it, and I would definitely be in favor of doing something in order to alleviate the tax burden on our constituents in order to fund school system.
Thank you very much. Mr. Anderson?
There's a lot of ideas out there that we can use to fund schools. What I will tell you is this. We constantly hear from the other side of the aisle in Harrisburg, we need more funding, more funding, more funding. Again, here are the facts. We spend more on education. We're 7th in the entire country. 7th. The whole entire state budget, 40% of it is education. 40%. We spend $20 billion on education. I believe that a community school, for the majority of people, is the best way to educate children. But it doesn't work for everybody. We have 8 schools in the state of Pennsylvania that has 0 proficiency in both math and reading. We have scores that are well under the average. We have a 74% graduation rate. We are funding schools at a level that is responsible, but we need to find a way to spend that money more wisely.
Mr. Rubin?
Well, I put forward for you tonight a responsible way to reduce our property tax burden, so I hope you'll consider that. But unlike the other 2 gentlemen here, I don't think we're overspending on education. There's nothing more important than educating our children, and so the money we put there is very well spent. But another way we can control those costs that I mentioned in my opening statement is by appropriately but not excessively funding our cyber charter schools. If we just brought back the cyber charter school funding to the average for which we fund our public schools, the schools in this legislative district, Dover, West York, and Spring Grove, would get back $3 million a year. That's your property tax dollars you've already paid that are buying buildings across this Commonwealth for the Commonwealth Charter Academy and all kinds of other expenditures that successive auditors general of both parties have said is out of line. So that's one way we can bring back hundreds of millions of dollars to our public schools without asking you for one more penny. If we look at those kinds of things and responsibly invest in our schools, we can control the cost of education, but not hurt our children, vast majority of whom are in public schools.
A subsequent question concerning educational funding. I have a real quick question, and then I'm going to have a secondary question, but I want to run this quick question through you first. Just 30 seconds. You may not even need the 30 seconds. This begins with Mr. Anderson. This is a tough one. Who has the right to determine a child's education, the parent or the state?
That's not a tough question. A parent is your primary educator of their children. Teachers, staff of schools, regardless, public, private, whatever, supplement how the parent educates their child. I was a teacher for 27 years. Not once did I feel that it was my responsibility to usurp the responsibility, the fundamental responsibility that parents have to educate their children. And that's why I am a proponent of school choice. One of the many reasons is because it is a liberty issue. Parents choose the education that is appropriate for their kids, not the government.
Ms. Rubin.
Parents are always the first and foremost teachers of their children. Being married to a retired public school teacher for 37 years, I can tell you that there's nothing more important outside the home than the education of a child of those dedicated teachers. And I'm proud to be endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Education Association because those teachers care about our children, probably second only to their parents. So it's a shared responsibility. Parents have the first and the foremost responsibility in that area, but they are supported by teachers. And if more parents supported their teachers, we'd be better off.
So parents are the number one in raising children, period. The parent's role is to prepare the child for the world. The school's role is to prepare the child for the workforce. They must work together, I'll give you that, but we can never lose fact of the sight that education, schools are there for education, not indoctrination. Too many times schools forget this and they try to replace the parents. That has to stop. Schools are an extension of the community they represent, and too many administrations across the country have forgotten that, and we need to get back to what our parents want and what our communities reflect in our parents and our students. Schools need to be a reflection of the people that are in in the district, not the other way.
All right. Let's see, we began with, that was you. Okay, so Mr. Ruman, we'll start with you. This, again, a subsequent question. I have 30 seconds here. I'll be lenient if necessary, all right? So don't knock them until I say knock them, okay? All right. If a family chooses to send their children to a private educational institution, whether private, religious, or otherwise, one that may even have a different social perspective than the school system in their area, should they be obligated to pay for their chosen educational institution as well as the taxes that are already paid toward public education? So my question, that's kind of my background. The real question is this: where do you stand on school choice?
Public dollars should go to public schools. 90% of Pennsylvania students attend public schools, and I believe that's always the case. But let's also understand that tax dollars do pay for a lot of private school funding right now. We pay for transportation, some of the supplies, and there's a tax credit program that individuals and businesses can and do take advantage of to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every year. So that's already happening. The bulk of public dollars should go to public schools. That's the way they're set up. Parents have the opportunity to send their children to any school they want to, but it's up to them to pay for that or find scholarships, which are out there through those programs that I mentioned.
All right, reset.
So I said this earlier, $23,000 we spend on students K through 12. And we need that to sink in. As I said before, money's not the problem. The point of funding public education, not to get a bigger bureaucratic system. That's all that we're gonna do if we keep pumping money into this. We're just gonna enlarge it. So to answer the question, I'm in favor of school choice. In fact, I send my daughter to a private religious school now, Christian School of York. I wish I could take some of my taxpayer dollars and take them over there, but I choose to pay for my daughter to have an education that I believe in.
All right, thank you. Mr. Anderson?
So to finish, money should follow the student. Sorry. Sorry about that.
You want to say it one more time since it was, that's all right.
Good. Since I've been elected, I've been touring the state, going to different schools, dozens of schools, private, public, all different kinds of schools, because you sit on the education committee and everybody tells you what's going on. So I've invited some of my colleagues to go 10 minutes away from the Capitol to The Rock. It's run by the Black Pastors United for Education. What they do is they've turned their churches into schools. You know why? Because in Harrisburg High School, people couldn't read in 9th grade. They had a 6th grader that couldn't write his own name. So these pastors decided to do something about it. So they get EITC money, which is the tax credits that you were referring to, but those are in danger because last week we had a committee meeting in which the Democrats are starting the road to eliminate and to reduce EITC so that those kids can't get that tax credit to go to the school of their choice. And these are all kids, all of them, in underserved communities that are the most vulnerable within our state. Places like Amani Christian, places like Karis, places like The Rock. All of these schools are reaching those kids that have been left behind, and the reason they can do it is because of school choice programs that are a part of the state government, which are now under threat by the majority party in the House. You can go online, watch the committee meetings, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
There was a statement made, and I'm going to throw a question in here. This is not on our list here. Should educational funds follow the student or simply go to the local institution, public institution?
Where are we starting?
Well, I'll start with you since this is really not part of it here.
All right. I stand by what I said before. I think public dollars should go to public schools.
So you believe all taxes are public dollars, are public dollars? Okay.
I finished my last statement by saying the money should follow the student. I stand by that. No reason to change. I mean, I'm in favor of school choice.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, the money should follow the child because every single student is different. Every student has different needs, and every school meets those needs differently. In our classes, for all teachers, you know that the principal comes in and says, are you differentiating your instruction in your class. Well, maybe we should differentiate our instruction based on different schools. Certainly the money should follow the children, and that's a kid-first policy, not a system-first policy.
Okay. All right, now we're back on track here. This is number 8, if you're following along with me. We're going to go to some social, moral type, maybe some people may call it moral issues. These are social issues. We may not need the 60 seconds that we're going to give you, but we'll give you 60 seconds if you would like to take it. Question is this, and I guess we're starting with Mr. Anderson?
Sure.
Is that where we are? We are back to Margettis. I'm sorry,
Doesn't
I
matter.
messed myself up here.
Let's rock.
Anybody know where we were?
I'll volunteer.
George? Okay.
I'll
All right.
volunteer.
Well, thank you. All right,
Yeah.
we'll do that. So you get the hot seat by getting the first answer.
I'm used to it.
Should recreational marijuana be legalized in the Commonwealth? If so, briefly describe your vision of availability and restrictions, if any.
So right now, we have to keep in mind that marijuana is illegal at the federal level. I do support the way we have medical marijuana right now in Pennsylvania. However, we have to deal with the fact that it's a disaster. There's an issue with the insurances and how businesses conduct themselves. The tech has not caught up to what's going on with the implementation of the medical marijuana. We also need to look at the fact that at this point, marijuana is putting a social divide between us, and there's extremes at this point. It's a drug. There's no getting around it. While there's some good uses to marijuana, there's also some bad uses, negative from marijuana. It's addictive. There's no getting around it. So right now, I'm okay with medical marijuana, and I do represent the district that I'm in, but maybe I can have my mind changed, but no, I think we need to keep it how it is.
First, I can tell you for a fact, the movement to legalize it among Governor Shapiro and his colleagues is so they can tax it. They say it, but all the time. So they can tax it to pay for the bloated budgets that we earlier talked about. I have an issue with funding good things with destructive behaviors. And if you've ever been a teacher, a coach, a youth pastor, and you've worked with teenagers, you know how destructive marijuana is. Some people would argue, look, you don't get it doesn't have addictive qualities. I don't know, we can debate that all day long. What I can tell you is that kids get addicted to the high. They use it to self-medicate. And I don't know how many kids I've seen their grades drop out of sports, stop their music lessons, because what became first and foremost in their lives was smoking that next joint. I'm absolutely positively opposed to legalizing marijuana, and I absolutely condemn the idea that we want to legalize it so that we can fund our pet projects in the budget. It's absurd and it's immoral in my mind.
Mr. Ruman?
I believe in liberty. I believe adults should be able to make their own choices for their own lives. And I believe that recreational marijuana, as it is in more than half the states in this country now, should be legal for adults in Pennsylvania. It would not be legal for children. You would have to be 21 years old. I don't support selling it in a state store-like system because I believe we should get out of the liquor business too. But I think we legalize it, we regulate it, and we tax it. That will help keep it out of the hands of children because we'll have better regulation. We can use part of the funding that we get, and yes, we would tax it. We could bring in $500 million a year, and that's a lot of money. We use part of that to give to law enforcement. But it's time to let adults be adults. They're not impinging on what we want to do. If marijuana is illegal, then alcohol should be illegal because it is much more a gateway drug to hard drugs than marijuana is. And if we really want to outlaw something that's addictive that we know kills us, then let's outlaw tobacco because that is killing thousands of us every year. So I say let adults make their own decisions. We should legalize marijuana in Pennsylvania.
All right. That's when I guess we'll start with Mr. Anderson. 60 seconds. And this is a tough one as well. What is your position on abortion? And thus, what is your stance on publicly funded abortions such as through Pennsylvania Medicaid?
First, no abortions should be publicly funded. Secondly, I am proudly endorsed by Pennsylvania Pro-Life. I am pro-life from conception until birth. I do not believe it's a my body, my choice alone, because you're talking about two bodies. There's two lives. It's not just one life. And I believe that an unborn life deserves the same sanctity of life and same protections as any human breathing outside the womb. I believe that that child, you can call it whatever you want, at the very least, we can come to a sensible time when we should outlaw abortions. I just had my first grandson in September. At 10 weeks, looking at the pictures of my grandson in the womb, I knew that is a human being, and that human being deserved protection, and I am unapologetically pro-life.
Mr. Rubin.
I supported the Pennsylvania law that did not allow Medicaid funding for abortion. I was surprised when the court overturned that. I need to understand more about what the court's position was on that and see whether the Attorney General appeals that, but I was supportive of that law that we had before. In terms of abortion, I agree with Mr. Anderson. We should have reasonable restrictions on it, and I think we do in Pennsylvania now. We can debate those, and maybe we could change those to some degree. But if we really want to reduce abortions, and I do, then we need to sit down around the table and talk about that. And what we need to do is make sure that we're supporting the woman through her pregnancy and beyond. And that means we don't cut SNAP funding so that that mother knows she's going to be able to feed her child. We don't cut Medicaid so she knows she's going to be able to get health care for herself and her child. We make sure we enforce red flag laws so she doesn't worry about her partner who may want to kill her because she got pregnant. That happens more than 200 times every year in Pennsylvania. So we need to support women through their pregnancy and beyond. And we also need to make adoption a much more viable option. And we need to support mothers who believe that that's the best thing because they can't raise their child. So if we want to reduce abortion, let's sit down and talk about ways we can support the mother through pregnancy and beyond. Let's have legal abortion, but with reasonable restrictions.
All right. Mr. Marquez.
So I'm pro-life to answer the question. My religion guides me here, and my moral compass guides me. There's no getting around it. Abortion, whether you like it or not, is ending a life, and that's basically murder. And the last time I checked, murder is illegal. We should not depend on where that life resides, period. So the only exceptions I believe in are life of the mother, incest, and rape. Mr. Anderson said it perfectly. I don't think I need to say anything more. I think that answers the question.
All right. 30 seconds, consequent question kind of goes along with that, so we won't need to make this long, may not take the 30 seconds. And I guess where are we now? Starting over again. I think it is. We'll do it. I can't remember. No, wait a minute. It's Mark.
Oh, it's Mark?
I'm sorry. You got to keep me straight on this.
No, it's,
I'm sitting there listening.
Hold on, I'm going to help you guys out.
You were last.
I was last, so that means
it's me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's me. Okay.
All right. Okay.
It's the toughest part.
All right.
Of the night.
30 seconds. Is it ever appropriate for school representatives to help facilitate a student in attaining an abortion without the parent's consent?
I cannot envision the circumstances under which that would be appropriate. Unless there was some horrific situation where they had absolute credible evidence that if that child went to the parent, there would be severe abuse or maybe even a life-threatening situation. But I mean, that's hard to conceive. So short of that, no.
Okay. Mr. Margettis?
I forgot to answer the last part of the last question. I would not be in favor of Medicaid paying for abortions. And to answer this question, I'm going to use my daughter's terminology, heck no.
Okay.
The fact that we're even asking this question, I'm sorry to look at you like this, Pastor, just says what's wrong with today's society at this point, that you even need to think that it's okay for a school to take it outside of the parents. I'm sorry I'm getting a little heated right now, but it's one of the reasons why I stayed on the school board. I saw what was going on during COVID. This is exactly the problem. Why are we even thinking it's okay for the administration and our teachers to be even thinking they can usurp the parents? We're talking about a young student here, a young person whose mind is still developing, and we're talking about allowing them to help them do abortion. The question on its premise bothers me.
Mr. Anderson?
Absolutely not. But I do want to clarify from the last question as well. Use my time. It's not one or the other, that you are pro-life. If you're pro-life, you don't care about taking care of the kids throughout their pregnancy or the mother who has an unwanted pregnancy. It's not one or the other. You can be pro-life, okay, and still care about taking care of women or girls that get themselves into an unwanted position. My wife, for years, has volunteered at a crisis pregnancy center, and that's what they do. They spend all day. They're strongly unapologetically pro-life, but spend all day, every day, taking care of expectant mothers. So it's not one or the other. You can care about lives and people who have gotten themselves into an unwanted pregnancy at the same time be 100% pro-life to protect the child.
We ran out of time there. Sorry about that. All right. I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this. This is kind of is going to feel like a loaded question, but it is what it is. It's what we're dealing with in these societies. And I guess we're Mr. Margettis.
My turn.
Define marriage.
Okay, so marriage is between a man and a woman, period. Again, I'm going to go to my religion, and I'm going to lean on that. I have friends out there that are in what I would call a gay relationship and whatnot, and maybe I can accept that to a certain degree, but my morality and what I think governs here, I think it's between a man and a woman. When my daughter gets older, I want her to marry a man.
Mr. Anderson?
I believe, because of my faith, that marriage is between a man and a woman, but I don't care what you do in your own personal life. That's my faith, okay? I don't think the government should be involved in it, okay? What you want to do with your own personal life, today on the floor, we got preached at over and over again. We were voting against something because we were upset. We should be free to love who we love. I don't care who you love, okay? You can love whoever you want. My personal conviction and what I believe is that marriage is ordained by God between a man and a woman. That's my definition. That's for me. That's what I believe is the moral.
Ran out of time again. I'm gonna give a little subsequent question here, but go ahead and finish up.
I guess the question is really do I support gay marriage? And I do. Marriage is a civil act. And when people want to enter into that, there are civil benefits to go with that. Medical benefits, health benefits, financial benefits, and so on. No church has to ordain that or sanction that, and the church I go to does not. And churches are free to not to do that. But in terms of our society, and it's a civil act, and I believe, as the other two gentlemen said, you love who you want to love, and I respect that, and that should include marriage as well.
All right, I'll move on to the next one here. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. And again, a loaded one here. I guess we're Mr. Anderson. So going along with defining marriage, and if we say it's between a man and a woman, or maybe it's between two men or two women, that means we must define the term woman.
Well, it's been the same in biology class for thousands of years until the past 20 to 25 years. Women and men are determined by biology. It's science, okay? It's not a social construct. That's something we just made up. You can't just say something and it be true. It's science. We love science until it gets in the way of our narrative. It's biology. A male is a male because of his anatomy. A female is a female because of her anatomy. End of story.
Okay. Mr. Ruman?
I got to be honest, I've talked to thousands of people in the last 6 months since I decided to run. I've never had anybody ask me that question. I don't think it's high on the voters' minds. But that's not for me to say. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. You know, that's not something for me to decide. That's for others to decide.
Okay. Mr. Margettis?
So I'm going to take a second for the last question. I want to reiterate a little bit what Mark said. I do agree you can do whatever you want in your backyard, and I'm a firm believer in that, and I believe that in general. So if you choose to live your life a certain way, that's okay. What I want to clarify is that the question was man and a woman, what a marriage is. I do believe it's a man and a woman, but people want to live a certain way, they can. Just don't tell my 6-year-old daughter how to do it. And it's kind of an overarching theme of my candidacy. Don't tell me what to do in my backyard. Don't tell my friend what to do. Don't tell, you live how you want to live in your home. And I'm going to answer this question really easy. We all know what it is. The doctor says it. It's a boy, it's a girl. That's my answer.
Okay. All right, another 30 seconds. I know you say, well, why are we on these things? But these things are on. We just had the Fairness Act come up this week. And so these are issues that are current, and our governing bodies are determining these issues according to legal matters. And so we live under the law of our governing bodies. So we will have to live under their ruling. And so however you all determine things up there, we're stuck with one way or the other. It may be good, it may be bad, but we are stuck with living with this. And so I want to bring these things up now, as before you get back in office or in office for the first time. So 30 seconds.
It's kind of hard in 30 seconds.
No, you haven't heard my question yet.
Oh, okay. About fairness.
No, I know. If you want to bring that in, that's fine. But the 30-second question is this.
Mark is ready to go.
The 30 question, yeah, I understand. I mean, that's a whole other issue that needs to be discussed. I just found out about that this afternoon, so I'm not ready for that one. 30-second, in your opinion, or as far as you know, how many genders are there?
I think it goes along with the last question.
I understand.
There are 2 genders.
Okay.
It is biology. To say I'm not a doctor, I can't make that judgment. I just want everybody to let that sink in. Okay, because we hear it all the time. Okay? 6th graders know. They're not doctors. Okay? We know what a man and a woman, it is biology. It's science. 2 genders, male and female, have been described and defined the same way for 6,000 years of human history until now.
Mr. Ruman?
2.
2. Mr. Morgentis?
Yeah, I mean, it's common sense, right, too?
Well, I just want to hear it out of your mouths. That's what I want to do. A lot of these things we might want to assume, but I want to hear them out of your mouths. It's amazing how many times we assume, and then our public officials get into office, we find out that they are not saying the same thing we thought. I'm going to give you 60 seconds here. And let's see, again, Mr. Rubin, thank you for keeping me straight there. I appreciate it. I'm too busy listening to the answers. 60 seconds. The question is, should the state help fund transgender surgeries or maintenance medications as it currently does? Or in any way?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how it currently funds those, but I believe if it's deemed medically appropriate by medical professionals, then it should be funded the way any other medical situation would be. So if it qualifies for Medicaid funding, if the medical professionals say it's necessary, then I think it should be covered, like anything else.
Thank you much. All right, Mr. Margettis.
I view it as a cosmetic surgery. Last time I checked, I'm not asking anybody to fund any kind of cosmetic surgery that anyone wants to have, and I wouldn't want my taxpayer dollars going towards that. It's a decision that someone should also make as they get older in life, unless it's something that's deemed absolutely medically necessary, which I think we've lost sight of the fact that these situations that we're talking about are super rare. We need to talk to psychologists and people in that field that can tell you what has happened and what it's morphed into. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But no, I wouldn't want anybody taking my taxpayer dollars to fund a butt lift, so I don't want it to take my money to go fund that either. You want to do that? Again, overarching theme of my candidacy. Do what you want. Don't tell me or mine how to live. I live a certain way, and I hope my constituents, I reflect that. And if I don't, you're either going to elect me or you don't. If I'm lucky enough to be up there someday, if you disagree with me, then you won't elect me again. But I hope to keep reflecting the community.
Mr. Anderson?
Not only should government and tax dollars not fund these surgeries, they should never happen to anybody who is a child. We just talked about age limits for marijuana. We could talk about age limits for all of the things you have to do. But yet there are those that support gender-affirming surgeries, permanent changes, and let a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old make that decision on their own. Frankly, I would call that child abuse. I think any doctor who would take on such a thing should lose his medical license. I think that if somebody wants to do that as an adult, that's all on you. You can make that decision, and you can live how you want to live. But number one, we're not going to do it to kids, and number two, we're not going to expect other people to pay for it.
Okay. All right, I guess we're back to Mr. Margettis? All right, okay. I think this is a 30-second question. We'll give it a shot here. Again, these are issues that are underneath kind of the same category. Should school employees and representatives, both paid and volunteer, as well as the student body, be required to address people according to their preferred gender identity or according to the gender that matches their biological makeup?
So again, this goes back to parental rights here and what we deem necessary. We have lost sight of the fact that we need to keep the parents in the loop on what's going on. So no, it also goes to the point of if you don't feel that's something you can abide by and it's something you can't stand by, then no, we shouldn't make anybody call anybody by any pronoun other than what their name is. Being on school board for the time that I was, I saw what was happening, and I don't understand where common sense is going. These all go back to me. It's a common sense thing to me, you know, and I just don't get it.
Mr. Anderson?
Again, you have the liberty to live how you want to live. If you want to, how you think, what you want to be, how you want to dress, how you want to speak, that is up to you. But you cannot make somebody else buy into what you think or what you believe. So you do not have a right, whether it's in school or anywhere else, you don't have a right to make somebody call you the gender that you want to be. That's not something we can make people do. Now, in school, I had transgender kids. I called them what they wanted to be by their pronoun. But I was also very honest with them about where they are. And we don't have a whole lot of time to get cut off. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I would go back to what I said in my opening statement. I would hope that as a society we can treat every person with respect and dignity. I don't think that's asking too much. And I appreciate what Mr. Anderson said that he did for his students, and I would hope we could all do that. If it's something that the child wants and the parents are okay with that, then I would honor that. I don't know that I wouldn't pass a law to say it, but I would hope that we could all treat each other the way we would like to be treated.
All right, Mr. Anderson. I'm going to try 30 seconds again. We'll see how it goes. Well, I want to try to get you out of here before tomorrow morning. That's what I'm trying to do here. Should students be allowed to use the restroom or locker room with their gender with which they identify, or should students be required to use the restroom that matches their physical anatomy? Again, I know this sounds like a little bit somewhat redundant, but I just want to clarify.
According to the CDC, 1 in 4 girls, biological girls, suffer some sort of sexual abuse by the time they're 18. If you are going to allow biological boys, because we want them to have their rights, to go in and undress in front of girls in a high school locker room, you are going to have 25% of the female population relive their trauma simply because of an ideology. And quite frankly, adults are using these kids. And I wanted to say, I got 7 seconds. We need to dig deep into what their real problems are. Telling them dress.
I'm sorry, you weren't watching. I was going to let you leave it on until I told you. You okay? Mr. Anderson, if you heard?
Oh, about 30 seconds. Oh, yes.
No, not
Okay, so-
another 30 seconds. Another 10 seconds. We knocked on 10
okay.
off of you.
No, anybody that works with kids knows it's easy to just say, hey, do what you want. But it's hard to dig into their lives. And when kids are struggling with these issues, we need to dig into their lives and find out what's really behind it. Not just say, you'll find happiness via clothing and a surgery.
All right. Sorry about that. We'll grant you the same.
Okay.
Extra 10 if you want.
My responsibility as a legislator, any legislator's responsibility, is to provide the teachers and the students in our schools with the resources that they need to allow each student to achieve their maximum potential educationally. And that's what I would do as a legislator. Other issues that arise within school buildings, whatever they may be, need to be handled by the teachers, the parents, the administrators, and the boards. That's why we have those local school districts. I believe that local control is key and important. So my responsibility as a legislator, as I mentioned, extends to providing those resources, as well as providing a safe learning environment for every single student, every student. And I trust the professionals in the school districts and the school buildings to handle any specific issues that may arise within those particular buildings.
Okay.
So to piggyback a little bit off of what Mr. Anderson said here, we always think about, should we allow boys in girls' locker rooms? Well, why don't we never talk about the effect that it has on the girls? We always do it the other way around. So to piggyback a little bit off of what Mr. Ruman said too, we need to look at both sides of it. We're doing a lot more damage to our girls out there, and we're all the feminists. Why is it that men like myself are more feminists and more? Why aren't we protecting our girls? I'm serious when I say this, and I don't understand it. And this just goes a long way to saying that. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I'm here because of her. And why are we not doing more to take care of our daughters in schools? That's, again, it doesn't make sense to me. Common sense is going out the window. That's why I want you to send me to Harrisburg, because I want to bring common sense back to that building up there.
Now, I have some other questions. We're going to do one last question on this in this category, and I'll leave the other ones go. I think we've gotten the gist of this, but I feel like this does need to be at least addressed. And I'm going to give him 40. Were we giving him 40 seconds there? Did you figure out a way to do that? That's what we were kind of doing. 30 plus 10. Let's do that. Just give him a little bit extra time here. Mr. Ruman, does having transgender women in formerly female-only sports a violation of Title IX? In other words, should persons who are transgender females be allowed to compete in sports with biological females? This will come up again, I'm sure.
Yeah, being consistent with the statement I made in the last question about protecting the safety of every student, in this particular instance, having broadcast high school basketball games on a local radio station for 2 decades here, I would be concerned about the safety of the athletes if we had people who are essentially biological males competing with biological females. So in this instance, I would not support transgender males who are transitioning to be females to play girls' sports. I think it would be too great a risk of injury to the girls playing that sport, and I do not support that.
So does that have anything to do with Title IX?
I'm not expert enough to say that. I don't think it would. I mean, that would be for the lawyers, I guess, but I see the issue of it's a real physical danger because of injury.
Okay. All right, Mr. Margettis.
I don't think Title IX applies here. I said a minute ago, I have a 6-year-old daughter. If you don't know, the Senate has already passed a bill to protect our girls in sports, literally saying boys should not be allowed in girls' sports. Mr. Anderson here, I think the House is sitting on this bill, and they're playing politics. And that's what the Democrats are doing with this. They're moving it from one committee to the other, trying to keep it from going to a vote because they don't want to protect our girls. Again, I said it a minute ago, I'm going to say it again. Where are the feminists? Why aren't they out there protecting our girls? Same thing goes with the liberals not being able to define what a woman is.
Mr. Anderson?
Currently, 102 Democrats will not allow the vote on boys and female sports to come to the floor. So any Democrat that's running for office, you're going to have to convince me that you're going to buck the party, because right now, not one of them has the courage to bring it to the floor. They're playing games. They refer it to different committees. It's an absolute joke. This week, they wouldn't even let Republicans speak on it. They wouldn't even give them the name of the bill they were voting on. So any Democrat that tells me, hey, I think that's unfair, I want to see it in Harrisburg. Because my experience in the last year and a half is 102 of them vote together on every issue, and none of them have the courage to dissent, or they're not allowed to dissent, and that's a fact.
Okay, that's all right. That's fine. Go ahead.
I appreciate what Mr. Anderson said, and I hope he would join me in supporting something that I support, and that is to require any bill that has bipartisan support to be required to have a vote in committee and on the floor of each and every chamber. That takes the politics out of it, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, because he's right, but the Republicans do it just as much as the Democrats, and don't you believe they don't. They do it in the Senate because they control it there. And oh, it is true. And if he agrees with me, every bipartisan bill gets a vote in each chamber.
Okay.
I'm all for that.
All right. Okay. Well, we're not going to debate then. I just thought you were going to clarify a statement there, but, well, sort of, kind of. All right. We're going to move on from that general line of questioning. I only have a couple left, and we'll soon be done. We previously had a presidential, let's see, we're at Mr. Anderson? No. No, I think it's me again. Isn't that something?
Volunteer, even if it's not,
first?
just
Well, I don't
to
want to
clean
do
it
that.
up.
Yep.
I think after what just happened here, let's make it me, okay?
All right. We previously had a presidential administration which was very pro-DEI. We now have a presidential administration that's quite anti-DEI. With 60 seconds, what are your major views on the practice of DEI in government and in requirements for the general public?
So I'm running because I want to preserve the American dream. And the American dream is all about merit and what you do with what you do with what you have. No one should get a job. No one should get anything in life unless they earn it. And there's no disputing it. The liberals, what they've done over the last 6-7 years, if not longer, is they've promoted unqualified, underperforming individuals just because of how they look or what box they check off. I don't care if you're black, white, Indian, green, whatever color you want to be. I was raised to not see color. I was also, when I went to school, we also were taught not to see color or not to worry about this box or that box. If you're qualified, period, you should be promoted. Whatever box you check off. You shouldn't be promoted just because you check off a box, and we have done that for way too long.
Thank you.
Well, since there was a rebuttal, I didn't know that was in the rules, but you are more than welcome to go home and look up every session and every vote and tell me about bipartisanship. You can look at it, there's green and red, and you can see. Okay, so you can sit up here all day long and argue about who's this, who's that. Just look at it. 2 colors, you see who's bipartisan and who's not. As far as that, it's merit. It's merit. Imagine if we treated high school sports, I know there's high school sports fans in here, or youth sports or college sports the same way we do hiring with DEI. No, we keep score in sports. And the best team wins. The people who work harder, the people who practice more, the people maybe are just more talented win. That is life. That is society. And if you want a good company, if you want a good hospital, if you want a good government, hire those people who are working hard, who prove that they are the best for the job, just like we do in every other aspect of life.
Mr. Ruman?
The real goal of diversity, equity, and inclusion is to make sure everyone has an equal seat at the table. And I agree with these gentlemen, it should be on merit. But we have to make sure that everyone has that equal opportunity, and no one is denied that opportunity because of the color of their skin or their gender or their lifestyle or their religion. So as long as that's what we're doing, I'm fine with it. But we have to make sure everyone has that equal seat at the table. And unfortunately, what we've seen is 3 other letters replacing DEI, and those are HEP, hate, exclusion, and persecution. We're now looking for people to hate. We're looking for people to set up, and because they're a certain type of person, they're bad. And that's why we have a lot of the division in our country and in our communities today. So let's give everyone an equal shot. I'm all for that, and you advance on your merit, but everyone has to have an equal chance to do that. That's when we'll have the best society we can, and we need to do that to work toward, as I said in the Constitution, toward a more perfect union.
We have 2 more questions and closing remarks. These are kind of catch-all questions to make sure we've covered some things here. I think we are with Mr. Anderson this time.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Because we started with Mr. Margettis for the last 5 times. I think we're going to let you start.
That's just what I do.
What are your views on the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms?
Me first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I am proudly endorsed by NRA, Gun Owners of America, Pennsylvania Firearms. The Second Amendment to the Constitution exists so that you can protect the First Amendment. There's 5 rights in the First Amendment. Founding fathers sat down and said, what are the most important things we need to write down? Because they weren't going to pass the Constitution. We weren't going to get a Constitution unless we added a Bill of Rights, because people demanded that they be written down. Sat down, what are the first 5? Gave you the first 5 things in the First Amendment. Second, not by accident, they gave us the right for a well-regulated militia. No, the militia was not the army. They were the local farmers and tradesmen that lived in their towns to protect their communities, so that you would have arms to defend yourself. I did a missions trip to Cuba a year ago. Sat down with an 80-year-old lady who was there when Castro came in and took over the island, and said, you know, life was great until the communists came in and took our guns, property, and Bibles. I'll go with her. Firearms are absolutely.
Mr. Ruman?
The right to bear arms is absolutely guaranteed in our U.S. and our state constitution. No question about that. Law-abiding citizens absolutely have that right, and they should. 2 things I support are universal background checks to make sure that convicted felons and people with mental health issues who are not entitled to have firearms do not get them. As the great best governor of my lifetime, Tom Ridge, said, law-abiding citizens have a right to bear arms, convicted criminals do not. The other thing I support are solid and enforceable red flag laws, so that if someone who has been adjudicated by a court of law to be a danger with a PFA against them, more than 200 people are killed in Pennsylvania every year by people who have PFAs against them. They do not, during that time they are adjudicated by the court, have a right to bear arms. Beyond that, that right is definitely absolute and sacrosanct. But if you look around at the world of despots, when they take power, the first thing they do is shut down the media. They don't take people's guns, because they know the true power is the freedom of speech. And that's why that's the First Amendment. But the Second Amendment is very, very important, and I support it.
Mr. Margettis?
So I heard this HEP for the first time here tonight, hate, exclusion, persecution.
It is trademarked, by the way.
If that's true, then why am I here today? My parents came here with nothing. They're immigrants, and I'm in a party that has a big tent that's allowed me to go forward. Why did we elect a black president twice? I just want everybody to mill on that, okay? The right to bear arms is an absolute. When it comes to the Constitution, I strictly read the Constitution. Pennsylvania's Constitution is even more strict to it, and it says, shall not be questioned, period. Therefore, you should be able to carry a gun without a permit. I think it's an absolute right. I also believe in the stand the ground laws. We should strengthen them, not take it back. I also would agree with getting rid of permits. I do think that we should allow our Pennsylvania citizens to have a way of getting reciprocity with the rest of the country. And preemptive laws, I would do away with them all. I would do away with it. I would not allow what's going on in Philadelphia to keep going on. We have the absolute right to go into Philadelphia with a gun. I have the absolute right to go down to Central Market with a gun. And no government should tell me not to do it, because the Second Amendment is there to protect us from criminals and to protect them if it ever should happen from our own government, and I strongly believe that.
I have one last question, which is kind of currently an issue, and it's being debated in different governmental levels. Where do you think I'm sorry, this would be Mr. Rubin, I guess, right? Yeah. Where do you think the Commonwealth should stand on the issue of cooperating with federal law enforcement such as ICE and immigration concerns?
Anyone who has committed a violent crime should be arrested, prosecuted, and if appropriate, deported. I support that absolutely. I do not support our local police doing ICE's job. We're paying ICE $110 billion to enforce our immigration laws. That is their job. The job of our local police is to keep us safe, protect, and to serve us. And that's what they should be doing. And police officers who I've talked to said if we arrest someone for ICE, our police officer is off the street during the time they have to be with that detainee until ICE shows up. They're not on the street protecting us, doing their job. We either pay more through overtime or we're less protected. We do need to have ICE, we need to have immigration enforcement, and violent criminals are not welcome in this country, and they should be deported. But that is the job of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. It is, for violent criminals, we cooperate with them as we do with all law enforcement agencies, but it is not our job to be actively doing ICE's job.
Mr. Margettis?
So, as I said before, I'm son of immigrants that came here legally, and that's where the problem lies. Right now, it's easier to come into America illegally than it is to come in legally. We need to talk about reform first and foremost, and until we do, we're never going to be able to fix this problem. So we really need to do something to reform our immigration laws. But you cross that border illegally, that's the first time you commit a crime in America, is just crossing that border illegally. And then, as far as it concerns local law enforcement and ICE, why shouldn't we be protecting our community? Why shouldn't we be allowing our police officers to help ICE? ICE is not trained to deal with the crowds. ICE is not trained to deal with some of the issues the police are trained to do. All we do is, by not cooperating with ICE, is make it harder for our local law enforcement to do their job. This is one time I'm actually going to point out a difference between my opponent and myself. We had an opportunity at West Manchester to pass an agreement with ICE, and we just didn't do it. There's no doubt in my mind that not cooperating with ICE is leading to American citizens being killed, and there's no way to get around it because it happened. Also, the liberals always want to protect illegal immigrants. They don't want to protect our own citizens, us as Americans. And we should keep that first and foremost in our mind when we deal with this issue. We need to reform the immigration system.
Mr. Anderson?
I never understand we shouldn't allow local police to cooperate with ICE or to work with ICE or do ICE's job. Would we allow them to cooperate with the FBI, Justice Department, federal marshals, DEA, ATF, any other federal law enforcement? So just ICE. That's the only one we do. We don't want them working with ICE. You realize that these ICE officials are regular men and women who are law enforcement just trying to do their job and keep us safe. So heck yeah, I think that our local police departments should cooperate with them, and they welcome that cooperation with ICE, especially as it concerns violent criminals. I think all law enforcement agencies should be working together to hold people accountable and to keep us safe. So yes, I think they should be cooperating to do their job that is mandated by our laws. And we've been carrying out these laws way before the Trump administration. It goes way back to, and ICE is doing nothing different now than they did in 2000.
All right, that concludes the questions that I've had. We've covered all kinds of things here this evening, and I think a lot of the major issues that's on the minds of most of our people. So we're going to allow each of our candidates to give a closing 90-second remarks. And in this, we're kind of thinking, do you have any particular goals or priorities for the Commonwealth, and whatever else you would like to share with us? And I see here, you just started this last one, didn't you, Mr. Ruman? I think so. And so you started the original ones, and so.
Yeah, me?
Well, I figured I'd go with Mr. Margettis since he was where we ended up.
All right, so I'm running to protect the American dream. That's what I told you at the very beginning, and that's where I stand. I want to protect everyone's liberties, and I want to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. I know that I'm running to represent everybody in the 196, not just my fellow Republicans, but it's everyone. I will be an ear to the entire district. It's something I pride myself on. I have a record of doing it. You may not always agree with what I say. You may not always agree with the way I do it, but what I'm going to tell you is I'm always going to use my compass, my moral compass, my conscience. I'm going to do what I think is right and what I think is fair. What I want to do is find a way to lower taxes. Particularly, I want to try to get rid of property taxes and find a way to fix that. Another thing we need to do is entice businesses to come back into Pennsylvania. We need to keep that coming. We need to. We didn't talk about this much tonight, but something that I have a strong belief in is I think the bureaucratic system here in Pennsylvania is totally out of control. We need to do something to cut that. We need to cut back on regulations. I think we need to make universities a lot more affordable. I don't understand why Penn State costs like $40,000 right now. It used to cost like $10 when I went to school. It's a way to keep people here in Pennsylvania. We need to do something about the housing, make it more affordable. We didn't touch on this earlier, but we need to drill, baby, drill, and keep the community safe. That's one thing we need to do. We need to tap into our energy sector. Up in the Northeast, Northwest, Governor Shapiro's put a moratorium and handcuffed us and is making us flip the bill for blue states and their energy concerns. The only way to change that is to stop paying for the blue states and take that money that we're spending on them and give it back to our constituents. And that's one thing I'm going to do. You send me to Harrisburg, I'm always going to do what I think is right. Not because Harrisburg tells me it's right, because it's what I think is right, and more importantly, is what I think is right for the 196.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, I can tell you this. 2 years ago, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I can tell you right now, there are many days where I would love to drive right past my office in Dillsburg, right to Northern High School. Because every day of my life at Northern High School was a good day. Most of your days in the Capitol are not good days. They're just not. First and foremost, because somebody told me about 2 weeks in, said, Mark, you're going to drive yourself nuts if you don't realize that the truth is irrelevant here. And that is correct. Truth is the basis for a healthy society and a healthy republic. So I've learned a lot. I have 2 plaques on my desk. The one is a Ronald Reagan plaque that says there's no limit to what a man can do or who he can be if he's unconcerned about who gets the credit. I had to really suck that one up on the 3 bills of mine that passed unanimously with 3 other names on them. This is the kind of thing they do. I wrote them, I did the work, did the research, went to committee, and the majority had their name on the bill and took credit for the bill. But I just sit back and say, you know what? That was a good piece of legislation. So I'm okay with that. Second thing is, Churchill, I used to preach Churchill at my kids all the time. It's not enough that we do our best. Sometimes you have to do what is required. I'm going to be very honest with you. I would go back to Northern High School in a second. But right now, and I will continue that commitment to you in the House of Representatives.
As I said at the beginning, I will listen to all views, and whenever I can, I'll bring different ideas together to forge practical compromise solutions. I did that when I worked in Harrisburg. I've done it as a supervisor in West Manchester. It's what I'll do if I'm your representative in Harrisburg, and I will treat every person with dignity and respect. I'm going to focus on the cost of living because I think that's the biggest problem facing us. I put out practical ideas to reduce property taxes. I support the call to a requirement that data centers pay for the electricity they use and don't foist it on us. And I would work to appropriately but not excessively fund cyber charter schools, because that would help control our school property taxes. $3 million a year to the 3 school districts in this legislative district alone. That's very important to do. Increased support for technical schools and colleges to help students get those very badly needed technical degrees. We talked about the cost of college. And reform the Penn State Board of Trustees. That's my school. I love my school, but our leaders have lost their way. They need to be reminded they're there to represent the students, families, and communities of Pennsylvania. And as I said, they've closed these campuses, depriving hundreds of York County students and thousands of Pennsylvania students of an affordable start to a college education. We need to change that. We need to change the Board of Trustees. If we do it at Penn State, it's our largest university. It will follow that the other universities will get in line. So controlling the cost of living is the key issue for me. I know it's on all of your minds. It's on our minds with the cost of everything going up. I will fight hard for you every day. I am endorsed by a number of Republican small business owners in the 196th district because I have fought for them as a supervisor. I'm fighting for Jim and Nina's Pizza in New Salem when they redo the intersection, and I will fight for the small businesses that are backbones of our communities if I am given the privilege of representing you in Harrisburg. Thank you for coming. Thank you for Pastor.
Thank you. Would you give him a hand? This has been kind of a heavy night, but I hope it has been of some help to you. And when we can be of help to our community, we want to be able to do so. I assume that our candidates would be able to stick around for a few moments and take some questions. Is that correct, Mr. Brother? You're not going to? Okay, all right. So they will be here. If you want to stop by their table, maybe get some information or something. And we appreciate you being here. And God bless you. You have a good evening. A reminder that it will be online. It should be posted real soon. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Mr. Ackman. Yeah. I wanted to say Clifford, but I didn't want to call you by your first name. Yeah, have a good evening.